Welcome back to Networks Tech Talk, a Samsung podcast. I'm your host, Kaylee Pickens, and we've got a great conversation for you today. The hardware-centric approach for network development using vendor-specific hardware designs has remained static for decades. As a result, the model is unable to keep up with the fast-changing world of today's telecommunications services. With the rapid push to 5G, operators are looking for fast, scalable ways to deploy while also having the flexibility and agility to manage services and optimize their networks. There are two ways that operators are achieving this flexibility: by using a virtual radio access network, or vRAN, and by embracing ORAN standards. vRAN moves legacy hardware-based functionality to software running on standard x86 hardware. And ORAN is a set of standards that allow RAN hardware from different vendors to interface. Today, we're going to talk about vRAN and OpenRAN, what they mean for operators, Samsung's views on them, and Samsung's leadership in both technologies. With me today is Derek Johnston, Head of Marketing for the Networks business at Samsung, and he's here to help us understand why vRAN and OpenRAN are essential to the industry. Welcome, Derek.
Hey, Kaylee, how are you? Thanks for having me.
I read in a recent heavy reading survey where they noted that 21% of operators are deploying vRAN now, and 99% of all MNOs asked plan to deploy it within 2 years. Can you tell the listeners more about Samsung's view and approach to vRAN?
Sure. To start, we agree with the survey results, both from the commercial, our commercial success and what we've seen in terms of our customer relationships. But there's also we also just see the industry going that way to a more software-driven approach, and so the evolution to that all virtualized network from the core to the RAN has been happening since the mid 2000s with virtualization of the core. And ultimately, at the end of the day, vRAN gives MNOs greater network management and service agility, but also better deployment flexibility and efficiency. So, and it's the things like you had mentioned, using those pooled, centralized, software-driven network functions that are on common, off-the-shelf, server technology, or cloud-native, as we've seen a recent push as well. So I think that's our view. Is this is the way the industry is headed, and we're happy to be taking a lead role in driving virtualization.
So you just alluded to Samsung's commercial success in vRAN, and while I'm aware that Samsung's been a pioneer in virtualization, can you tell our audience a little bit more about some of the accomplishments we've achieved in the industry?
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to. We started with virtualization in the centralized unit. We call it the VCU. Telecom loves a good acronym, and so in traditional RAN, if you will, if you take kind of servers and radio. The VCU sits in between the baseband unit, or a server that sits at the base of the cell tower, if you will, in just kind of simple terms, and the core of the network. And it runs everything from radio signaling, processing, and resources to access controls. And so we virtualized that portion of the network first, and then from a commercial success perspective, we deployed with the tier one operator end-to-end a 5G millimeter wave system. So it was in a multi-vendor environment. And so that was virtualization of the VCU, as well as our access unit, or our 28 gigahertz radio delivering 5G service. And then more recently, we virtualized the digital unit, or the baseband unit. So this is full vRAN, meaning all of the functions that you can disaggregate from the baseband and make a software-driven function. We did so, and that is now in a commercial tier one network operators network, and providing service to millions of subscribers in the U.S. here, and getting hundreds of megabits per second of great high-quality 5G service.
So it sounds like Samsung has clearly earned the status of a vRAN global leader, working with those tier one operators around the globe, implementing these large-scale vRAN commercial deployments. But can you talk about how technologies such as massive MIMO and the use of C-band are really important to vRAN, and how Samsung is integrating these?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, as you well know, mid-band spectrum is really the cornerstone of 5G service globally, and so here in the U.S., C-band has been vitally important to the competitive 5G market, and so deployments have really taken off. And to take advantage of C-band's benefits, which is that large contiguous spectrum and propagation characteristics that really provides the promise of 5G in terms of high throughput and low latency. You really need massive MIMO radio technology, and massive MIMO radio technology involves a lot of processing and RF signaling that happens at the kind of at the edge, if you will, or at the cell tower. And so it was believed that was not something that was feasible by many incumbents that were kind of pushing back on vRAN. Meaning you needed to have a dedicated vendor-specific hardware-based solution, and we've been able to prove otherwise. Again, that's stuff that we have commercially in a network now. We're the only global network technology provider that is delivering massive MIMO technology in a full vRAN setup and achieving traditional RAN performance levels. And so that is something that we're extremely proud of. I think demonstrates the leadership that Samsung has in terms of our virtualization technology.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's switch gears a little bit and let's talk about OpenRAN. An OpenRAN approach definitely seems to be gaining strength in the marketplace. What is Samsung's view on OpenRAN? And can you tell us more about Samsung's successes with deploying in OpenRAN?
Sure. So, to begin with, OpenRAN for Samsung is really just an extension of what our strategy has been with our networks business, which is we're taking a customer-centric approach. We're not chasing market share. We are seeking to partner with customers in certain markets that are technology forward. And so OpenRAN is a choice, we believe. We're not politically or maniacally behind the initiative, but we believe it's a choice. And it's a choice for network operators who are looking for flexibility and agility in their networks. So as such, we're a member of things like the OpenRAN Alliance and have done extensive work to open up the front haul interface initially and things like that. And we believe that true OpenRAN really comes down to not only that it starts with the front haul, but more importantly, it involves a fully disaggregated baseband that you do with a vRAN architecture. And so I think that would ultimately, we believe that if a customer or a network operator is looking for an OpenRAN network, it really behooves them to consider it in a virtualized RAN architecture to give them that true flexibility between the kind of software-driven network functions and the open interfaces. So that's kind of where we stand in OpenRAN. From a commercial success perspective, we're the only global network technology provider that has OpenRAN deployments here in North America, as well as in Europe and in Asia. And so we've been working with, again, technology forward operators, the likes in Asia of KDDI and Docomo. In the UK, just recently we announced the first OpenRAN, 5G OpenRAN site with Vodafone. In here in the US, we've done OpenRAN compliant deployments with folks like AT&T and Verizon. And so, we see it's a choice, and the operators that tend to choose OpenRAN are, generally speaking, more kind of technology forward, trying to push the limits of the available technology stack and what they can do with their network.
So you talked a little bit how OpenRAN and vRAN can complement each other, and we're starting to see some people in the market quickly embrace OpenRAN while other ones are just jumping on the vRAN bandwagon. So will there be instances where folks embrace one versus another, and who do you think will be pursuing each option?
Sure. So I think there are a variety of reasons why network operators are pursuing vRAN and OpenRAN or both. I think to begin with, for vRAN, all network operators are ultimately will choose vRAN. That's the way that the industry is going. But I think one commonality in terms of why is really flexibility and agility, and that's in deploying and managing your network. So if you start with vRAN, for mobile networks, I liken the industry adoption to vRAN is similar to how enterprise IT networks have migrated, meaning they started off with hardware-centric, localized network architectures and technology. Eventually, they moved to kind of software-based or software-driven, either SDN platforms, and now we've seen this move to cloud-native and cloud implementations, things like that. And that's exactly how telco networks are migrating, just at a slower pace because, again, there's a much higher level of security, performance, uptime involved in mobile network technology. But again, I think the mobile networks are taking that same migration, and so I think that takes care of kind of the vRAN portion. For OpenRAN, what we've seen is for commercial reasons, in terms of opening those, opening interfaces and introducing other vendors. Again, it has to do with kind of agility and flexibility in their network. I think there's been a lot of spin and focus associated with this multi-vendor aspect of it, and I don't, there's also been if you follow kind of the industry news and stuff of that's not really true ORAN, which I think is a little bit of nonsense, in the sense that. First of all, it's it's early days for OpenRAN, and with any network technology, it does take a while to work this stuff out into, especially these massive, technology and approach changes. So to that end, I think a lot of the smarter operators that are choosing an OpenRAN approach say, okay, well, let's start with, we will deploy, and it could be with a single vendor, OpenRAN compliant equipment, so it gives us the flexibility to then introduce other vendors when the time comes and when there might be a need or an opportunity. And so it's really about that flexibility and that agility to do so, as opposed to a day one, I have to bring in and integrate 5 to 6 different vendors. I think that's no network operator started down the OpenRAN path with that being their vision. In fact, it may not get to that stage. You might get to just a couple of vendors, et cetera. But I think it's that flexibility and agility in the network. And then with vRAN, I think the other portion that I failed to mention is, there is a cost efficiency down the road. There is, upfront changes, organizational, more software driven, engineering talent and things of that nature. But ultimately, at the end of the day, if you can imagine an operator who, as they deploy multiple spectrums and then the associated radio gear, is if they can start day one, they put in their COTS servers at the base of the tower, they can over provision those servers and that technology at the base of the tower. When they add new radio resources, it's a simple tower climb, but they don't have to go and address new baseband technology. They don't have to wait for the vendor to have their basebands ready, and then it's a software push. So there's deployment efficiencies, resource savings, if you will, in terms of your tower crews and things like that. And so there are, cost efficiencies and, kind of CapEx and OpEx implications that we believe will benefit the network operators in terms of an overall cost of ownership benefit.
Okay, and I do follow the industry news, and I have seen that OpenRAN tends to get a little bit of a bad rap. Can you talk a little bit more about some of the negative press coverage OpenRAN's been getting?
Sure. I think with OpenRAN, it really starts with when network technology. cycles and from a sales cycle perspective, from a network infrastructure provider like a Samsung is you have these very, very long, sales cycles and technology development investments, right, that are enormous in terms of R&D. The amount of R&D that has been spent on 5G technology is incredible. And so if you're an incumbent provider in a network, there's a lot at stake. And so when you open the interface and introduce the possibility of other vendors, it can get a little uncomfortable. And so, I think for some, the narrative has been that, look, this is silly. You're not going to get the performance. There's security concerns. There's, how do you manage multiple vendors and their release cycles and the coordination of all that. And so, and again, these are all legitimate questions and ones that the industry can and will solve. But I think a lot of attention gets paid to, the hyperbole behind that. And so, our view is that, look, it's early days, but it's a choice. It's one that network operators want. So the customer wants it, and it's a valid ask and one that can be supported. And so, I think that a lot of the fear and uncertainty and doubt associated with OpenRAN really starts with that level of discomfort that it provides when it puts that stuff at stake and introduces new competitors and new entrants to the market, which from Samsung's perspective we welcome. In terms of having a vibrant and multi-vendor ecosystem out there that can provide new features, functionality, and drive innovation.
So that's a great segue into my next question. I want to talk more about this multi-vendor ecosystem. We know it's an important measurement of success for OpenRAN. So can you tell us more about what Samsung's doing to make their vRAN more open and the types of partnerships that they're forming to expand the ecosystem?
Sure. Yeah, I think so we believe that the foundation of our leadership, in terms of vRAN, has always been built on our relationships with ecosystem partners and our industry colleagues. And so, to that end, I think we have the largest ecosystem and partnerships out there of any global network technology provider. And so we believe that our success in the space is kind of built on the strength of those relationships and those collaborations. And so to that end, I think that's what we see as a determining factor in terms of everyone's success in the industry. We've and that translates, I think, as well into the OpenRAN space. So from a vRAN perspective, we have had partnerships that start with kind of chipset vendors, going into the server technology, now into the container as a service, and if you will, the folks that are helping telco cloud providers in terms of containerizing those network functions, and then the cloud scale companies, and we have partnerships all the way through that. On the ORAN side, we've worked with competitors, obviously, the radio side, on the baseband side, to make sure that our equipment can work and the interfaces are tested and validated. And so that we see as a determining factor in why we've been able to produce the first 100% kind of vRAN, fully virtualized RAN solution that's commercially out there and delivering things like service over C-band.
It's also probably why Samsung's vRAN solution is an award-winning solution. At Mobile World Congress in Barcelona this year, Samsung recently won 2 GLOMO awards, including the CTO Choice for Outstanding Mobile Technology Award and the Best Mobile Technology Breakthrough Award. Can you tell us about the significance of these awards and what it means to Samsung and the industry?
Sure. Yeah. So I think we're incredibly honored I think to be acknowledged by our industry peers. And so I think from my understanding of the award over the years that I've been in telecom, it's you're being selected by I think something in the order of 21 CTOs and mobile network operators, and so that's incredibly humbling and an honor for us in terms of the folks that are smart and are making huge decisions about their network technology, and they're acknowledging the success of our solution and our competency and our ability to deliver it in a commercial sense. That's incredibly gratifying. So we're thrilled.
Absolutely. Well, Derek, thanks for your time today and breaking down how vRAN and OpenRAN are providing operators with more flexibility to deploy next generation networks.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Kelly. It was great chatting with you.
Awesome. vRAN and OpenRAN are fascinating technologies that are making huge impacts in mobile network evolution. And Samsung's leadership in development and deployment for major operators around the world is extremely impressive. We're all excited to see the network virtualization and open standards we've discussed today continue. And to our audience, thank you for participating in today's podcast. We look forward to seeing you next time on Networks Tech Talk.